Hey, hello, and welcome to episode 45 of Your Ultimate Comeback. And like we started last week and on an NFL, I want to get a shout out to one of my beloved Broncos, number 45, tight end Nate Adkins.
Yay.
There we go.
Right.
There we go.
Okay.
Raquel.
Yes, sir.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
How are you?
I'm doing well.
Good.
It's Friday. I always love Fridays.
It's the best day of the week.
It really is.
That's my favorite part is like I look so forward to doing this with you because I know I get to spend time with you. We get to share our information and then I'm done.
No, it's nice, right?
Yes.
Just
And my
kind of chill.
son doesn't have football practice. We have no practices,
All right.
nothing
Just
tonight.
go hang with your kiddos and be chill. Nice.
Super chill.
Love it.
So I think he wants to go watch one of his buddies play flag football tonight.
That's
though.
fun.
Yeah. It's fun to just let him enjoy his buddies.
Aw, cool.
Yeah, so
And
it's
like,
good.
oh, you're just still on flag. Sorry.
I think I could see it in his eyes like he kind of misses it.
Does he?
I think so.
Oh.
But he like last football season he played tackle, then he played winter flag, and then 7-on-7 and spring flag, and it was
That's
too
a lot.
much. Yeah, it was a lot. So I'm hoping this year he cuts back a little bit.
Yeah.
I told him he's got to play another sport too. I really believe like young kids who
Brad.
play multiple sports, it's the best way to develop them. So he's looking at volleyball,
Yeah,
baseball.
why not?
He's like, Dad, I'm not going to be very good at those. I'm like, that's perfect.
I like the baseball idea. I love baseball.
Yeah,
It was fun watching. I say I love baseball. I loved watching my son play baseball. I don't love baseball.
Yeah. So hopefully he's
Tell him that's Bo Jackson.
Yeah.
He can do both.
Yeah, do both. He's even shown some interest in golf because of Brendan.
I love that.
Yeah, I'm
Why
all
not?
for that one too.
Not an inexpensive sport, however.
No, there's none of them that are expensive
True,
anymore.
it's true. Yeah, that is absolutely true.
Yeah. So today we're going to talk about first off the impact of social media and our health.
Yes.
And then I want to surprise you with something.
Oh,
I want to talk about something else.
Okay.
I've been really resistant to something you've wanted to talk about.
Oh.
Yeah. And
I hope it's what I think it is.
yeah, Raquel's been wanting to talk about seed oils and the dangers of seed oils.
Bum, bum, bum.
Yeah, and I've been a little resistant to it because there's not a lot of science to support a lot of the claims around it.
Right.
And I know how this kind of works. You introduce a subject that doesn't have a lot of research around it, and the scientific people can hammer on us.
Yep.
And I hate dealing with that.
Yep.
But
Isn't that how you know you made it, though, when you have haters?
well, yeah, I guess it's still not fun to deal with.
I know, you're right.
But I started reading this book called oh my gosh, Clean Energy, I think is that. And the authors were on a podcast, and I listened to them talk, and it's really good. Tucker Carlson interviews them. I can't remember their names, and it's driving me nuts. But they wrote the book Clean Energy, and the book's all about it as well. And they're just kind of whistleblowers on the whole pharmaceutical world, the food manufacturing world. She's a doctor. He was a Stanford graduate, Harvard Business School graduate, and was a lobbyist for the big pharma and the food industries. And
which is one of the biggest lobbies, if I'm not correct.
oh yeah, it's huge. Yeah, it's really big. But they just started sharing a lot of the stuff we know. We know what's going on, and they just brought light to it. And as I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, I believe all this stuff they're sharing. I believe seed oils are bad for us.
Yeah.
I believe a lot of things that I don't talk a lot about because they don't have a lot of research behind them. And I'm like, why am I holding back with that?
Yeah.
And it's literally because I just don't want to deal with the backlash of the scientific minds. But I'm sitting there and I'm realizing there's so many loopholes in science.
Yeah.
Science is very far behind. And I know that in the world of exercise and nutrition and supplementation. I might have shared this, but I remember sitting in a lecture, and this guy gets up and was speaking to this really high-end group of coaches from all over the world. One of our big mentors had passed away, and this guy was coming in. His company was going to take over kind of coaching the nutrition side of things, the supplement side of things. Super big ego. Actually, he hated on me. He hated on one of my posts a while back. It was awesome.
Recently he did?
Yeah, I did a podcast on the 21-day reset.
Yeah.
And a clip came up, and all of a sudden this guy shares it, and it's literally puts, well, this is a bunch of bullshit.
Oh.
And I click on it, and I look on it, and it's this guy.
Oh.
So, which I loved, because this guy was a moron.
Oh, no.
So he gets up, and he starts doing this whole lecture to this whole group of really high-end strength coaches, and he said it was all on the top 3 proven supplements for athletic performance. And they were creatine monohydrate, fish oil, and whey protein. And he started going off with this massive ego about how good these supplements are because all the science is backing it.
Right.
And granted, this group of people, including myself, had been using those supplements for like 20 years. And this gentleman from Australia stands up and said, I got a question for you. He goes, I remember you. 20 years ago, you were making fun of me because I was recommending certain supplements to athletes and I didn't have the science to back it. So would you like to know what those supplements were? Creatine, fish oil, and whey protein. He goes, so who's right? Me 20 years ago or you now? Because there are now things I'm recommending that you are bashing on me for because there's no science to back it.
Right.
So who's right now? Do I got to wait 20 years for your science to catch up?
Yeah.
So in the world of like fitness and nutrition and supplementation, it's very well known. There's the art of that, and then there's the science of that. And the science is very far behind what we are doing with a lot of the things. And the reality is, I think it's with a lot of things.
Yes.
And I think science is being manipulated. I think science is being covered up.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that are going. And what I love about this podcast interview and this book is the brother who was a lobbyist was doing all of it. And now he's coming out and saying, here's the things I was doing. And then the sister is a doctor, a very high-end doctor, graduated from Stanford, became an incredible specialist and walked away from it because she couldn't answer one simple question. Why are these people sick? Why are they in the situation they're in? I should know that. All she was taught was, here's the symptoms, here's the surgery, boom. And then she started realizing like, oh, there's the highest end of medical world is the specialists.
Yeah.
And they specialize in a very small part of the body. So a lot of these people she was working on, she was one of like 15 specialists they were seeing trying to solve these problems. And so she walked away and went more into naturopathic medicine.
Yeah.
And it's a great book. The podcasts that are out with these people, they're just whistleblowing all the things that we believe, that we've experienced. So I would like to also talk a little bit about the things, and how I would like to put it is, here are the things we are doing and why we're doing it. This is not going to be a conversation of, these are the things we recommend you go do.
Right. Different.
Very different. I just want to kind of share some of the things that we have read, that we have tried, that are working for us, that we do.
Right.
And then ask our listeners, hey, just go look into it.
Yeah.
Go explore it. Go start asking. No one's asking questions.
Yeah. Yeah.
No one is asking questions. And they really highlight that. We're just told what to do, so we go do it. And we don't even ask why.
Right.
And there's we're all, not all of us, but a lot of us are on medications because we're told that's what we have to do.
Yep.
And the reality is,
no end game.
And no end game. And every medication has side effects.
Right.
Every medication has side effects.
Right.
But that's been kind of the world of the answer of, oh, this is how you stay healthy. You take drugs.
Yeah. Not root cause.
Yeah, not root cause.
Yeah.
So I just want to kind of dive into that a little bit and
it.
share some of that stuff. I think that'd be a really fun conversation to have. And if you want to hate on us, you can hate on us. I don't care. Right? Like, but be careful, because like that dude that shared my post and said it was a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah.
I love that I get to share that story of, well, here's a guy
much later
crashing on me, literally saying all my stuff is bullshit. But my experience with him was, oh, I remember that day really, really well. Like you got basically booed off the stage, and the next guy that came on after him was like super, like he was like, okay, like totally changed his track, was like realizing what he was dealing with.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really funny. But yeah, let's start with social media.
Okay.
I'll let you start with
You'll let me start?
Yeah.
I was just reading a little bit about how, well, first of all, when you're my age or even your age, we have the benefit of remembering what life was like before it.
Yeah.
And, I saw some sort of meme that was talking about why Gen Z or Gen X, whatever in the hell we are, is so frustrated because we had records, and we had tapes, and we had to use the pencil to write, and then we had, the 8-tracks, and then CDs, and we're constantly changing things.
Yeah.
And I thought that was very funny and very true. We've no other generation really has seen so many changes, and our kids are basically born into this social media thing. And it's such why are the levels of depression so much higher? Yeah. Why are, kids struggling so much more? Why is it that it's hard for people in general actually, to actually relate to someone face to face? Almost, I still remember when you had a pager. Did you have a pager?
Yeah.
Okay. And that was a big thing.
Yeah.
I remember thinking.
Pulling off and using the payphone.
Yeah, exactly. So, but there's something special about, even though it was kind of a pain in the ass, having a phone with a cord that you had to be at home to use.
Yeah.
And, now everything is so fast, so at our fingertips. We carry around a mini computer in our hands, in our pockets, and wherever. And I don't think it's better for us, is the thing. Yeah. I I have an app called Life 360 that we use where the kids are. Well, my kids aren't really kids anymore. They're both adults. Do we still use it? Yeah. I mean, would they argue with us about that? Maybe. But it's not so much now to say, oh, I see where you are. It's more just to feel safe. So there is that aspect of it. It's kind of, even though Quinn's gone back to school, it's kind of cool to see, oh, she's working out right now or whatever. But the argument could be made, sometimes the more you know, the more you stress, right? And our parents never knew where we were. We left. We were gone. We were playing. My thing with lights have, the street lights come on. Wasn't that the thing? And you had to come in 100%. Or whatever.
Yeah.
It's just so different now. And I feel badly in some ways for this generation that will never know if you had a crush on a girl, you would write her a note.
Yeah.
Or you didn't ask for their snap. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And you didn't have to talk to face, really. You could hide behind the keyboard for a while.
Yeah.
And there's just such a there was something kind of special, like we said, a payphone. That doesn't even exist anymore, And like I can remember losing my phone, getting in trouble and having my phone taken away. Literally, my dad would unplug the phone and put it in a different room. Yeah. And that was the most horrific thing.
Yeah.
But it's just, while I love social media on some level, I don't on others.
Yeah. I had a really interesting experience with social media. There was a gentleman in the gym the other day that looked just like my cousin back home.
Okay.
Now, a few of my best friends back home that I grew up, including my cousin, they're very successful. And I wanted to show I was talking to Jay. I say, oh my God, I go, hang on, let me Google a picture of him.
Yeah.
He didn't have one.
Oh, you told me this.
He had no social media, no pictures of him. He's super successful. There's nothing on him.
Wow.
And the thing with those friends of mine that don't have all the social media, they might be the happiest friends that I have.
Yeah.
They're great fathers. They're super connected with their kids. They have great relationships with their buddies. Because if their buddies want to talk to them, they got to call them or they got to go see them at their house. They get together.
Sure.
I thought I was like, oh my gosh.
Wow.
I can't find anything on my cousin online. And he's super successsul.
Yeah. And you still can be. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, because my belief, I'm not a fan of social media. Because we're working on social media. How I hate it.
Yeah.
And I've for years thought I'm just going to get rid of it. But the message has always been, oh, you can't because of business.
Right.
And so I feel stuck and tied to it.
Yeah.
And I have this reference point of my happiest friends aren't on there.
Yeah. Yeah.
A couple of them, their wives are on there, so like they'll get some info from their wives.
Sure.
They don't even want to be on there.
Yeah.
I think it's phenomenal.
It's just such a double-edged sword is what I think it is. And like I said, there's so much about it that I love there in the way that I get so much inspiration from it.
Yeah.
Or, quotes or ideas for maybe even our podcast or, oh, wow, this is kind of a cool exercise, configuration, doing this. That's kind of interesting, obviously the algorithms work in such a way that when you're clicking on things, it's going to give you more of what you like.
Yeah.
So there is that aspect that I like and appreciate. It has kept me in contact with people that maybe I wouldn't have otherwise.
Yeah.
But the flip side, the comparison trap, look at this person has this perfect life and I don't. And we all know that people don't typically put out all the crap that's happening in their life. They typically want to show the best things.
Yeah.
Unless that's your shtick.
Yeah.
And the tears and you want to film yourself crying and that's a whole nother thing. So you get people to tell you how great you are.
Yeah.
So I think that there's a place for it, but I guess maybe it's because you and I are we know what it's like without it.
Yeah.
It must be and my son and I have had that conversation. He was kind of not digging it at one point. He wanted to go off the grid as far as he said, I want a flip phone. He actually did have it for a while. He said, I don't even want this stuff. It's too addicting. We waste time. It's, brain rot, da, da, da. And I thought, wow, this is so excessive. You're saying this, but I get it. When it's so easy to sit there and scroll and do nothing else but that.
Yeah.
So I understand. So it must be different to have never experienced what you and I have.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. My back home where my mom lives, she still has every cell phone they've ever had, all the way back to the brick phone.
Oh my gosh!
So my kids got to see what phones used to look like. They're like, "How do you?"
They were so.
Use
do you remember
thing?
in the little case?
Yeah.
Remember the case?
Yeah. And they're like, I remember, so she still has like one of those like old dial-up ones.
Yeah.
And they're like, what is this?
Yeah.
I'm like, that's a phone.
Yeah.
Well, how do you even use it? Like they're just blown away.
Right.
Really? That was in the house?
Yeah.
And that was the only way you talked
and
to
the
people?
rotary dial.
Yeah.
I remember when you got the push buttons. That was a big deal.
Yeah. Remember the first voice recorder or whatever that is, the voicemail?
Sure.
Yeah, it was like the little tapes.
Yep. And you come back in your room and it's not flashing.
No voicemail.
See, some of that is so cool.
Yeah.
When you think about it, and we're always in such a hurry to move faster, do more, get to the next big techie thing.
Yeah.
I know some people that have to get every new iPhone.
Yeah.
For example, and it's just I can remember the first iPhone I ever saw. It was one of my clients, and I thought, whoa, this is weird.
Yeah.
What do you mean you can talk on that? Wow. There's just so much. And we've really seen a lot.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I've toyed with the idea of doing a sort of a social media, not a break, because I can't really do that. And so I shouldn't say I can't. I probably could, but I still feel like there is benefit.
Yeah.
But maybe saying, okay, from the hours of 7 p.m. to 8 a.m. or whatever it is, I'm not even going to look at stuff. Yeah. And I don't know. In some ways, that's scary.
There's a couple of things recommendations I've learned over the years on different days. One is just take a day fast from it. So like Sundays, there's no social media.
At all.
And
Okay.
then
that's
other
doable.
other people say like one of the worst things we can do is wake up and jump on social
First
media.
thing. Mm-hmm.
Because what's happening is when we do that, we're engaging in everyone else's lives, not our lives.
Yeah.
So they say there's a lot of power if you just wait a couple hours before you look at social media.
Yeah.
From a mental health standpoint.
Sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And the one that scares me is there's so much dopamine addiction, like scrolling.
Right.
It's depleting dopamine.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy. So there's some pretty negative health side effects that go with it that they're starting to find. Mm-hmm. What scares me the most is our children.
Yeah.
I heard a stat that the average child spends 7 hours a day in front of a screen.
I don't doubt it.
Versus being outside.
Yeah.
And here's an interesting thing. I was talking with a high school football coach I'm really close with. Mm-hmm. And he's telling me one of the hardest things they're having to deal with is that kids can't move very well. Mm. And it's because when we were younger, we were outside playing all the time.
Yep. These skateboarding or riding your bike or
kick the can, hide and seek. It was just all about movement. Right. Well, these kids never experienced that.
True.
So they're having a really hard time getting these kids to move well. Mm. It's like one of the first things they have to do is just kind of teach them how to move. And a lot of them can't even get into like a deadlift position or a squat. They can't squat right. They can't do anything right.
And this is what age?
This is in high school.
Wow.
When they come in as a freshman, they kind of have to teach the kids how to move. Mm. And so like I hear that. And
not just occasionally.
It's it's like a big problem. Wow. And I look at my son, and he's still that type that he wants to be outside and playing.
Yeah.
It's so hard to find other kids that want to do that.
Yeah.
They all only play their video games.
Sure.
And that's the other thing he talked about. He goes, it's really weird. Like a lot of these kids' aspirations is to live in a 1-bedroom apartment and be a professional video game player. Like that's their kind of aspirations. Yeah. They don't have much aspiration because they're so entangled in social media and video games and all that. So like one of the things I do with my son is I have him go like work out with a wide receiver coach. I have him go do different things with different people. People are like, why do you spend? Oh, you're like one of those dads. I'm like, no, that is his outside time.
Sure.
Like we go out and play in the streets and play ball and things like that. But it's like I need him moving for his long-term health. Yeah. It is not because I have some whacked out dream of him playing in college or playing in that, like none of that stuff. Right. I just recognize he's passionate about it and it gets him outside and moving a lot. Sure. So to me, I'm investing in that, his future health. That I don't want him to get to high school and not be able to move well because that means when he becomes an adult, he's going to be even more unhealthy and be able to move even worse. Yeah. And then I see all the people that get hurt because they can't move well. Right. And the issues that come with that. So my biggest concern is just how much we lose of our lives scrolling and how much is causing us not to move as much. Right. To take 10,000 steps a day should not be a hard thing. Yeah. It is a very hard thing for most people.
I've heard this actual challenge that if you wanted to scroll, you need to be walking while you do it. And maybe that's on a treadmill or, so you're not just...
That's a good idea. it's also scary because you think of how many people get hit by cars.
Right. Well, I'm
scrolling their
not
phones, walking.
saying down the street.
Yeah.
Yeah. And or some people that have those desks, the stand-up desks. I know someone that has a stand-up desk with a little treadmill underneath.
Yeah,
It's
those are very beneficial, they say.
Yeah.
So the biggest enemy we're fighting, because they say this, that sitting is the new smoking.
I could see that.
Yeah, it's just as dangerous to sit all day as it is to smoke cigarettes.
Sure.
So at 150 minutes a week of like low level activity, dramatically reduces all risk of death by like 47%.
Holy cow!
That's how powerful moving is.
Yeah.
So like I want to create an environment with my children where they're moving a lot. They still, like, my son still watches YouTube, but he's not into video games.
Right, that's great.
If his buddies want to do it, he'll sit down and do it, but that's never his first choice.
That's great.
He'd rather be, so I'm trying to extend that as long as I can, because I know it's coming.
Yeah.
I know that's going to hit a point where that's what all his buddies are doing, so he's going to want to jump in and do it. I also there's a staggering statistic. I think 80% of all suicides under the age of 18 are boys.
Really?
Boys are in a state of despair right now. They do not get together. They go to their rooms and they play video games, and that's how they interact.
Sure.
They're in a state of massive depression because they don't have interaction like we used to. When I was a kid, video games were so boring. When I was a kid, it was Atari.
Well,
it was super basic.
Yeah, I mean, come on.
That would entertain us for like an hour.
Yeah.
We would be out playing basketball, riding a bike, skateboarding. Like, we're always doing stuff together. Boys don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of sports because it gets kids to engage with other kids and
right.
gets them outside and gets them socializing. But that's the other thing that scares me with all this stuff is it's isolating. It's isolating things.
Yeah.
And one thing that really not enamored me, but like kind of caught me off guard was those people I was telling you about, that the podcast and that book, that Clean Energy, is that the most and this is what this gentleman said, who was a lobbyist, the most valuable person to the pharmaceutical world is a sick child.
Sure.
Because now they're on their medications their whole life.
Yep.
And you see that. I mean, how different. I'm sorry, food allergies didn't exist when I was a kid.
No, I know.
Asthma,
did you know anyone with a peanut allergy?
I didn't know anyone.
No, it's
I didn't even know they existed as a kid.
Right. Yeah.
I was the only kid that I knew that had asthma. And now it's like every kid has asthma. It's like staggering amounts.
Yeah.
And mine was triggered by cats, but like kids this day and age are having asthma. Like, just my son's one of them. It's just stuff is causing weird things in our children. And so I just I am mostly concerned for our children because they're growing up in it. They're engulfed in it. I see the impact it's had on adults and humans that are older because we're starting to move less. We're starting to isolate. We're starting to scroll. And you kind of almost start to feel like you have this life through social media.
Yeah.
It's weird.
And on top of that, people are influencers and make a shit ton of money being such. So there's that. Like you said, kids are like, oh, I want to, compete in video gaming, whatever. That you make a lot of money for that.
100%.
Yeah. Same thing with an influencer.
Yeah.
You stumble upon the right, it thing, and you have enough followers, and all of a sudden that becomes your how many of them have we seen at the gyms?
Oh, I see them on a daily basis. I see the ones that have made it and the ones trying to make it.
Right. And they've got to, and part of me thinks good for you, but I feel like a lot of this really ramped up during COVID, right? Because no one was filming content like that pre-COVID.
Right.
Or very little.
Right.
And that just really caused that surge because people needed to connect, I think, or wanted and needed to connect. And that's just when they see how much money can be made.
Yeah.
Some of the people that, I'll be honest, I scroll on TikTok and I look at these things and I'm blown away by some of the content that is heavily followed. It's crazy. Yeah. So no, why wouldn't you? They're making 7 figures for this stuff.
Yeah.
And how do you tell a kid that, okay, so you're going to go to college, you're going to get your degree, you're going to do your thing, and struggle to find your job versus, hey, maybe you just want to, be a content creator and, you're going to making a shit ton of money. It's insane.
It is insane. I will share this, that I had a heart-to-heart conversation with a guy that was a really famous influencer. And I just got like, how is it? Like, what's it like? He goes, it absolutely sucks.
How old?
I don't know how old he was. I would guess
younger,
20, like late 20s, early 30s, maybe.
Okay.
But a very famous, well-known fitness influencer. And He's like, all these young kids think this is the life. It's horrible. I would give anything,
Wow.
I would give anything to be able to get away from this and but I make so much money now
Right.
and I'm
And that's
trapped
the
in
thing.
it.
Yeah.
But my whole life is exposed to everyone.
Yeah. That's kind of creepy.
He goes, it's super creepy.
Yeah.
Like, and everyone thinks they know him. And he's like, it's just a weird phenomenon.
I'm sure.
He said, but I mean, the money's great,
Yeah.
but I'm giving up so much of my life for that money.
To be a public figure.
And I would love it back.
Yeah.
I would love my life back.
Wow.
Yeah. So there is that. I mean, it's not all it's cracked up to be.
Yeah.
But I get it. It's easy money.
Yeah.
You don't have to go work hard for it.
Right.
I mean, it takes effort to be able to find the following and create the content.
But once you've stumbled upon that and you've caught lightning in a bottle, it's like, okay, all right, here we go. And on some levels, I've had this debate with some people. I don't fault anyone for if they get that and they find that traction and I kind of don't fault people for going with it. I really don't.
If I fell into that, I would run with it.
Right?
100%.
Right? So I do understand that, but I think part of the problem is we give our kid an iPad, when they're 6 months old.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to have to deal with shit.
Yeah.
And while it wasn't an iPad for my kids, it was. What was it? Baby Beethoven? What the heck was that? Those videos. Was it Baby? Was that what it's called? Do you know what I'm talking about? Anyway, the little video, you still put a video in and just plop them in front. And,
hell yeah, because you need a break as a parent.
Right.
It gets overwhelming.
Yes. So, I don't know.
But I have noticed also that stress levels have gone through the roof.
Of course.
Just trying to keep up and scroll and come up with content and pay attention to everything. And then there's the phenomenon of people getting mad at people because they didn't like their picture. So it's creating strife, like weird strife.
Right.
Like, why didn't you like my picture? I didn't even see it.
Right.
Oh, are you sure? It says you saw it. You didn't like it. I'm like, I swear.
Seen.
Yeah. Like, I'm sorry that I didn't take the time to like that picture or that. It's just weird. It's creating very weird dynamics.
It really is. It really is. And again, I feel badly in a lot of ways for our kids, for the generations to come, because that's only going to get worse. Everything's only getting faster. And
one of the AI scares me a little bit. How like
much.
Is it real? Is it not real? How they start feeding you more of what you're seeing, and you start seeing the same thing over and over and over. It's much easier to believe it.
Yep.
It's pretty gnarly.
I know.
Pretty gnarly. So what I try to do is when I wake up in the morning, I do not check my social media first thing. I wait for a couple hours.
Yep.
I'm trying to really push that. My goal is to move into that whole day of just no social media on Sundays.
That's great.
And I think I got it to a place now where I can do that and not risk missing any type of business contacts or anything like that, or messages.
Right.
And I think people are starting to cherish a down day a little bit more, so they're a little more supportive if you just say, oh, hey, sorry, I don't look at social media on Sundays. People have been pretty good about that.
But isn't that funny? We expect an instantaneous response.
Yeah.
If you text someone, well, it's been 10 minutes. Why haven't they responded?
Well, I think all this stuff was supposed to make our lives easier.
I know.
And what is that? It's just
the
overloaded
irony.
the shit out of our lives.
I know. That's true.
Here's one other interesting fact about this is that we are exposed to so much information on a daily basis now that it would be the equivalent of reading 87 newspapers a day in like the mid-1980s.
Wow.
That is how much information we are exposed to and processing through this stuff.
It can't be good for us.
It's super overwhelming.
Cannot be good.
That's why if you're in business, marketing is so hard because there's so much noise, there's so much information. It's hard to grab people's attention. It's crazy hard.
Yeah.
And it's because of that. Like, that is literally how much information we're exposed to on a daily basis. Can you imagine trying to read 87 newspapers?
No.
You couldn't. But it's just slammed at us all day long.
Yeah.
We're trying to avoid it and find the important stuff.
Right.
And it's pretty overwhelming.
My husband his decompress is, he scrolls a lot on social media, but what he really likes to do is get on the couch and watch a movie that he's seen 37 times.
100%. I love that.
Is that a guy thing?
I love that.
Well, it's wild to me. And I think,
well, you know it's a good movie that's going to give you good feels.
Right.
Yeah. And it's going to motivate you.
Yeah.
I have certain movies
like the Rocky movies he loves. Phenomenal. Or Rudy.
Yeah.
Ocean's 11, the Ocean series. Yeah, it's funny. I'm like, you just saw that.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to leave this portion with this. Our oldest went to boot camp. 3 months. Was not allowed to have his phone.
At all.
At all.
Really?
His only way of contact was to write letters.
Whoa.
Yeah. The day he got his phone back, his first comment was, I don't even want to turn this thing on.
It's because he knows.
He had gotten back to life without it.
Yep.
and started to like it.
Yep.
And when he turned that thing on, it was just massive overwhelm.
Oh,
and
10,000 emails and texts.
It was like, and so he's back to his happy place because now he's back at School of Infantry, and he only gets his phone at certain times each week.
Yeah.
So he's recognized he's much happier and more engaged with a group of people when they're not all on social media. Yeah. They're not all attached to their phone.
Right.
So I thought that was fascinating.
That. A little bit of a break. You know, Quinn is on her team retreat right now, and they can't have their phones during the day. When
I used to work with that group, Eric and his group with Bold, teaching the Bold class, it's like literally it's 48 hours in the mountains and you have no cell service.
So you're screwed anyway. You couldn't even try. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was so amazing how much people didn't want to turn their phones back on at the end of that 48 hours of like re-engaging with life fully.
Yep.
Like people were just despaired over like, oh, I don't want to do it.
I don't want to see.
I did. I went to this thing called Onsite. It's like in Nashville. And same thing. It's like 5 days.
Yes.
And you're completely disconnected from the world. There's no TVs. You have to turn on your phones, computers. You're not allowed anything.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Was it?
Yeah. I remember that feeling like, God, I really don't want to turn this thing back on.
Yeah, and see.
It was nice just connecting with humans, focusing on myself, not getting pinged constantly, like not worrying about, oh my God, I can get back to someone.
Yeah.
I get in those modes where it's like, I'm always checking my phone to make sure I haven't missed a text message because I fear that I'm going to not respond and forget because I'm really good at doing that.
Well, you can mark them as unread.
Well, yeah, but I'm so bad about it.
You are really good at responding, I have to say.
Well, it's because I know if I don't, I will forget.
Yeah. That makes sense. You get on to the next thing.
Yeah. And you know what? So I will be honest, even if I do mark it as unread, I will forget it's there. And there's so many text messages that have come in.
Yeah.
Like, all of a sudden, I've totally forgotten about it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That kind of stuff it stresses me out.
Yeah. Yeah, like you said. So all of the things that are designed to make our lives easier are really making us more stressed.
They're stressing us out. Yeah. And that stress load has a lot of negative impact on our metabolism.
Hey.
Yeah.
Look at this. Full circle back into our usual preaching.
Yeah.
But people don't think about that, right? People do not think, wait, the social media stress could be, what? That's adding to it in life? Of course, because you're seeing all sorts of stuff. There are times that I'm getting inundated with now a lot of political stuff, and you're like, oh my goodness, this is not calming me down.
This is leave me alone.
Yeah, exactly.
So with that Bold group, every summer they would do a couple of camps for high school kids.
Ooh.
And they would take their phones away. That was part of it. You would be shocked how many kids would be like, oh God, where's my phone? Where's my phone?
Yeah.
They panic. Or one kid's like, my phone's, it felt like their phone was buzzing in their pocket. It wasn't even in their pocket.
Whoa.
They had the hardest time decompressing from not being on their phone.
I'm sure.
Yeah. So that you could see the stress process of decompressing from the overwhelm of that thing.
Yeah.
So
that just goes to show.
Yeah. I highly urge just disconnect as much as you can from it.
Yeah.
Just to test. Like, am I less stressed, more stressed?
Yeah. Well, I think initially, like that, you're probably stressed that you're not connected.
Yeah.
And then okay.
Yeah.
No fires are burning. Or if they are, they're okay.
Yeah.
I can get to it in a moment. Yeah.
Oh, and one other thing, you can also black out not black it out, but gray tone, I think it's called.
Your screen.
Grayscale your screen so that there's not all the red alerts. They say those red alerts stress us out.
Yeah. Or excite us probably at the same time.
It could be a dopamine hit, but it's also a stress scenario.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, how many times have you gone to like I remember when I used to speak, I'd be on stage for 3 hours and I'd come back and have like 60 text messages. It sucked. I'm like, this is so crazy.
Yeah. No.
So anyways, enough on that.
Okay.
I say we don't have a lot of time left, so we'll just kind of do a little intro into this and maybe a deeper dive next podcast.
I like it.
But I really want to apologize for fighting this so much because I think it is important.
You did fight with me on this.
I did because
I understand.
Yeah,
I understand. Your name is attached.
I don't even care about that. Oh. It's just dealing with the backlash.
Mm-hmm.
It's like politics, right? If you're a science-minded person, you live and die by the science, and if you don't have the science to support it, you're a fucking idiot, and you don't know what you're talking about.
Yep.
But then when the science is wrong, they buy into the next round of science, and they forget that they used to buy into the old science, and it's like, oh my gosh. 2 years ago, you're saying that was the answer.
Right.
Now you're saying the opposite is the answer because now the science, so I see people science jump. There are a lot of loopholes in science, and science is very easily manipulated.
Yes.
And it's really hard to read science. One of the classic ones that I saw for the longest time, I can't remember the name of this guy, but he kind of showed how much science can be manipulated. Like, remember how I used to hear that red wine fought cancer?
Oh, yeah.
Helped prevent cancer.
Oh, yeah. Everyone was, you. That's awesome.
Well, the study that was done that created that was done in a petri dish. They had a cancer cell, and they would take a dropper of red wine and put it in the petri dish, and it would kill the cancer cell.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that is not how it works in the human body.
Right.
But that study was one of the first studies that came out to say that red wine is cancer preventative.
Sure.
Now that's been tossed aside and realized, that's not the right. Like there is really no health benefit. The only way you could get health benefit from red wine, it's resveratrol in the red wine that's good for us. You'd have to drink like an insane number of bottles to get the amount of resveratrol that has a positive benefit.
Which all that has a negative effect.
Well, then you got I'm sorry, you're going to die from alcohol poisoning.
Yeah.
Like you wouldn't get there.
Right.
So it's studies like that. Like they just get manipulated all the time, or misread or misused. One big one for me, I have a family history of kind of genetically high cholesterol.
I do too.
Yeah, and so I did a really big deep dive into this because from the age of 16 they wanted to put me on a statin.
Oh yeah.
Because that was the answer. But I was smart enough. I don't know why, but I always asked questions. And I would read the side effects, and I could never be convinced that was the right answer for me. So I personally did a really big deep dive into cholesterol, like cholesterol myths. I read a lot of stuff, cholesterol myths written by cardiologists. Like, so for example, one thing I will not put in my body is a statin. Even though the medical world says
wants to put you on it.
They tell me I'm an idiot. I've been told that a lot by the medical world.
I want names.
Yeah. I'm like, okay. But like, that's just not the right answer for me personally.
Yeah.
But most doctors that run my blood chemistry, and here's what's crazy, is that my cholesterol levels are high in America, but they're normal in Europe.
And are they looking HDL, LDL, and all that?
No, and then
stuff?
they don't even go beyond that and look at the
They just look
particle
that
breakdown.
big number.
They just see high cholesterol.
Yeah. Woo.
Oh, and you got to be on a statin.
Yeah.
Like, well, why? We're gonna have a heart attack. Well, how do you know that? Well, because your cholesterol's high.
Yeah.
But if you look deeper into that realm, like I did, you'll see that a lot more plays into it than just the cholesterol number.
Yep.
So, for example, the first thing I want to start with is if you're someone that has high cholesterol and they're trying to put you on a statin, do some research. Start asking questions. And my recommendation is just simply Google cholesterol myths and then read the articles, the books, and things written by cardiologists.
Yeah. Because we need cholesterol.
Yes. It is a very important thing.
Yep.
And one of the most fascinating things is working with some athletes in the past that have had genetically low cholesterol. That is a fascinating experience. Talk about a male that has low cholesterol, genetically low. It's really hard to get their testosterone levels optimal. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Like the body, for example, needs cholesterol to make testosterone. So it's just very interesting. I'm not going to spit any more than that, but I'm just going to say, if you're like me and you're always told you have high cholesterol and you're always told you should go on a statin, do a deep dive, start asking questions, why, start asking more, and start reading more. And there are some really good articles and really good books written by cardiologists on this whole cholesterol myth. You got to do a deeper dive than that.
Yeah. The doctor that I see that is more, of a homeopath is whenever she looks at my blood work, she says, she said this many times, they would want to put you on a statin. But I look at your ratios, I look at your triglycerides, everything is great. It's fine. Yeah. So it's not, there are some of those doctors out there that don't want to just throw something at you.
I'll tell you the one situation I go on a statin. If I was a smoker, I had a heart attack, I lived, and I was unwilling to stop smoking.
Well, then that's
at that
just
point,
ridiculous.
I would take a statin and feel like it was doing something beneficial for me personally.
Well, why wouldn't you stop smoking?
Because I'm addicted to it, and I wouldn't be able to, and I wouldn't be unwilling to break that.
Okay.
That's when I'd go on a statin, and I feel like it at that point would have some protective benefit to me. Okay. That's just what everything I've read.
Okay.
At that point, if that was me in that situation,
that's just like throwing a Band-Aid on the whole thing.
Well, yeah, but it would be.
So you could keep smoking. Awesome.
I think at that point, for me, in my personal situation, what I've studied, it would be of a benefit to me, reducing my risk of another heart attack.
Okay. Good. I'm glad we don't have to worry about that scenario.
I'm just saying that's the scenario for me.
Okay. Fair.
All right.
Okay.
I'm going to let you talk a little bit about seed oil because you've been wanting to talk about
Oh man, that's so unfair. You know what? I think Shelby is the first. Is Shelby the first person we talked about? Shelby was in here before.
Yeah.
In fact, I think we should have her back on.
Okay.
Let's have her back on to really talk about it because she's the one I think that really got me very aware of it. It's engine lubricant, it's all the thing. But I think back to not that long ago, canola oil was the best thing ever to come out.
And margarine.
Exactly. And Earth Balance was what I would buy instead of butter. And this is not much, probably within 10 years.
Yeah.
This has not been that long. So there's another example of things really change and move, right? And we can't, how much has your way of eating and exercising and living in general changed since you began all this?
Dramatically.
Right.
And I think it'll continue to change as we learn things.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's fascinating to me when Chelsea was here last week and she talked about the fat-free thing.
Yeah.
I still remember that too. It's wild how we kind of follow along these trends. And maybe that could be the negative argument that people could say, oh, you're just following along on this non-seed oil trend. But I start to think about back years ago, 1950s, whatever, 60s, people were not as overweight as they are now.
Yeah.
And what were they doing differently? They were eating meat, they were eating butter, they were eating eggs, they were not doing all the fake food stuff.
Yeah.
The fake food stuff has a list of ingredients, 30 ingredients. When you just think about, I think most people will agree eating real food, whatever it is, you're a vegetarian, okay, eat real food is going to be better for our bodies.
Yeah, most people, but it's pretty funny when you start realizing that Oreos are okay.
How are they okay?
Steak is dangerous.
Oh,
I'm
right.
not saying me.
I
I'm
see.
saying
I see. Yes.
What we're hearing is
Sure.
Oreos are okay.
Uh-huh.
Steak is really bad.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So it's some scary stuff that we're dealing with. Mm-hmm. Real food has been demonetized.
Yes.
It's like, it's the problem.
And demonized.
Demonized, not demonetized.
Well,
demonized.
Yeah.
70% of Americans 70% of the American diet is highly processed foods, not even real foods.
And I think if we switch that, you already get benefits.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You get massive benefits.
Yes.
So, I mean, with the processed foods, you have all these chemicals, you have the seed oils, you have plastic stuff in it.
Oh my gosh,
it's gnarly what's in them.
Yeah, microplastics.
But we're led to believe that stuff is okay.
Yeah.
And here, the reality in the world of medicine, most doctors don't have any study or any training at all in nutrition.
It's very short.
Or
from
exercise.
What I hear. Yeah.
I remember I was having an argument with my family about this. Like, you're so opinionated, blah, blah, blah. And my cousin, I love him to death. He goes, no, I'm going to agree with Brad. I just graduated medical school. I had a Saturday class on nutrition.
Isn't that crazy?
He goes, all I am, I'm a legalized drug dealer.
Wow.
And I'm proud of it. He chose a place where he's working with the elderly and keeping them alive and keeping them healthy. And again, I'm not against it. Like acute scenarios, when I'm really sick with bronchitis or
they have their place. They have their place.
I'm going to the doctor. So I'm not bashing on them.
Right.
I'm just there's a tendency, there's an overstep of boundary.
Yeah.
And I even see it in the exercise world. Mm-hmm. I've had so many clients I'm working with, their primary care physician will tell them, you can't do that exercise.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm like, how the hell, how do they know that?
Right.
Like,
that's bad. Do not ever do that.
Don't do that. It's bad for you. Yeah. How do you know that? You have no study, no training in that. If I say, don't do that drug, it's bad for you, I go to jail for practicing medicine. Yeah. But because I have no training in it. That's exactly how it should be. Yeah. But now this person who is trained in medicine is now giving like exercise and fitness advice with zero training behind it. Yeah. But that's okay because he's a doctor. Exactly. And guess what? That person's going to listen to the doctor, not me.
Sure. We've been trained to do that, just as we've been trained that, a study comes out that says XYZ is bad for you. Yeah. Oh, okay. It's only been pretty recently that people have started questioning things, I think, and doing their own research.
When it comes to seed oil, I'll tell you, I found a study that showed that people that ate seed oils were healthier than people that didn't.
Okay, that's wild.
Super wild. But that's what I'm saying. Like, the science is very confusing.
Yeah, right.
And very, you can't find much research, if any at all, that supports this idea that seed oil is bad for us.
Okay. Well, let's have Shelby back on.
I dug to find it.
Yeah, I know.
I would love to meet someone that has it, that can actually has legit science validating it. Yeah. That was one of the biggest reasons why I didn't want to talk about it, was because there's no support on it. Or maybe there is, I just can't find it because it's been
it's buried,
layered and buried and hard to find, because that can happen.
Yeah.
But what I know about, as I reduced my seed oils, my like margarine intake, my omega-6 intakes, it had a massive positive impact on my blood chemistry. So in all honesty, I don't give a shit, right or wrong.
Yeah.
I'm keeping it out of my diet because my CRP levels came down. All my inflammatory markers came down. My omega-3 to omega-6 ratios balanced out to better state. Like, you can tell me whatever you want.
Yeah. But there's something to it.
For me, it's a thing to keep out of my diet.
But I think just inherently, it makes sense that if you're eating something that is closest to the source, that's going to be healthier.
Yeah.
I mean, how are you going to argue that this genetically modified ingredient, organism, whatever it is,
it's a fake food.
Yeah. It just, that does not seem like best case scenario.
Yeah. And why did you know I think it was like the majority, like cigarette companies that ended up buying the food industry and took their scientists and had them focus on making food more addictive.
Oh, I can see that.
I mean, like processed food is highly addictive.
Of course.
Real food is not highly addictive.
Yeah. Well, we've talked about that, trying to hit your protein. Go get your protein goal before you grab the sweet treat.
Yeah, it's crazy. I just went on a 3-day water fast, and I had a gentleman take me through it that specialized in it. We'll have him on the show because I wanted to experience it.
But not to get lean.
No, it was not about weight loss or anything like that. It was I wanted all the health benefits of it. So he has his patients do it once or twice a year. It's a very different protocol than what we've been shown on like social media and stuff like that. It was actually pretty tough.
I bet.
But what was crazy was breaking all the food addictions, because I would have like candy bars. Yeah. I bring up Oreo cookies because that's like a thing for me. Like, it's hard. There's addictions in there. Yeah. And now as I'm coming back into real food, realizing that I'm not, like, those addictions are not there. Yeah. I don't even want them.
Is it really gone for you?
Well, like, I started having dreams about vegetables.
What?
I wanted a bowl of ground beef with eggs. Right. I actually the fermentation farm.
Hey,
they're chili,
delicious.
Like, I started like craving those things once the addiction went away.
Nice.
Or the addictive desire went away. The first day was really hard. I remember day one, I had a ton of clients, football practice. The boys, the game on Saturday didn't allow any points scored, so they won donuts. So Krispy Kreme donuts showed up. Oh, no. And people kept putting, do you want one? Do you want one?
And
I'm
just
like,
the smell.
Are you effing kidding me? Like, yeah, I want the whole freaking box. I haven't eaten all day.
Oh, my God.
So that was a really hard thing to break.
And what did you say, out of curiosity?
I'm like, oh, no, I'm good. I'm good. I was like super polite about it. But I didn't tell anyone what I was doing because I didn't want them to leave in a bunch of questions.
Yeah.
But I'm good tonight. Thank you. But yeah, it's a scary thing to realize that they're putting addictive things in these foods to make us crave them and eat them.
Sure.
And they're telling us that these are safe, healthy foods, and they're pushing those foods. Right. Like the whole I call it Frankenmeat, but what was that stuff? The Beyond Meat. Thank you. You start looking at how many ingredients go into that, and it's just fake food. It's not even real.
And you know what? If someone wants to be a vegan, right on.
I'm all for it.
But there are ways to do it without eating fake foods.
100%.
Yeah, and that's, to me, where it becomes, because I've known people that are vegans that are just like eating all the crap, the processed stuff.
I'm excited. We have a guest coming soon. The gentleman I shared with you, cancer survivor, kind of healed himself. He's either vegan or vegetarian. Okay. I'm super excited to have him on here because
love it.
If it works for people, I'm highly supportive of it.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited to have him kind of talk about that and how he uses it and how it works for him. And because he was stage 4 colon cancer and he beat it.
Wow.
He's a phenomenal individual.
Yeah,
incredible comeback story. But that's one of the things I'm most excited to hear about him talk about is how he's used, it's either vegetarian or vegan, to heal himself and to live a better life. It works really well for him. Yeah. So I'm excited to explore that because I don't believe there's any one right way to eat.
No, and I think everybody is different.
100%.
We know that.
Yeah.
And wouldn't you want to live optimally and feel your best?
Yes, 100%.
And I do think one thing that we can say is nobody is going to do their best on highly processed foods, whatever it is.
Yeah. I tell people the first place you should start is if it wasn't around 10,000 years ago, don't eat it. And if people just did that, a lot of a health crisis we're experiencing would go away.
Sure.
But that is really hard to do. It's expensive to do. They've made it really hard to do.
It's kind of messed up.
You got to have a lot of money. Yep. You got to run around to different stores to find the different things. Yep. It's not easy to do in America.
Nope.
So...
All right.
Awesome. Nice little tangent.
Yeah.
Well, we got to cut it off.
Okay. We'll tap into the seed oil thing more.
Yeah. I think we'll bring Shelby back to kind of do a deep dive into that. I'm comfortable doing it. And
right on.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you everyone for listening.
Yeah.
And hey, we hope this, our whole goal here at Your Ultimate Comeback is to help you live a better life longer.
Yes.
And so that's what we're trying to bring to the table, just sharing with you things that work, bringing on guests that can share that.
Yep.
No matter where you're at in the journey, we want to share things to help you live better longer. Hope you
So
guys have a great
share
week.
our podcast.
Yes, please do.
Yes. Thank you so much, Matt.
Awesome.